Hornets released a video on social media, seeing some good things. Most Hornets fans are happy, at least. LaMelo wearing ankle braces, new practice court, lots of cool things we're talking about on Locked On Hornets today, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more as the playoffs are over with in the NBA. We're trying to figure out when the NFL regular season is going to start. Still a ways from that. The sports, they're just not sporting like we want them to, especially with the Olympics over now. But this summer, all throughout summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. There's Doug Branson. You can find him on his substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. And I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. So we got to do the whole ankle braces thing again, huh?
Finally.
A positive spin on it, if you ask most Hornets fans, but we got to do the ankle braces thing. So to tell the people why the fans can get excited about this ankle brace conversation concerning LaMelo Ball.
Well, the sports, Walker, may not be sporting like they used to, but the Hornets at least are keeping us abreast of things that are happening around the practice facility. A little drip, drip, drip of video of the Hornets doing their thing, getting ready for the season, and we got another video, 44 seconds of practice footage from the Charlotte Hornets, and within that 44 seconds, you could see LaMelo Ball, and keen-eyed viewers were, of course, zoning in on those ankles. And I don't know if they're braces. I don't know what they are, but there's definitely something under the sock, bulging from the sock. That's right, folks. We are on bulge watch, but it is of the ankle variety, and we are trying to find out, is he wearing some kind of braces? And it appears he's wearing something there to support it, and we should all celebrate that.
Well, it looked like on the outside too, right? I don't even need. Do we need to be on bulge watch? It looked like we saw something just outside there either. But that is the the Zapruder film on ankle braces is something I don't want to do. But here we are, right? Because it's been a problem with LaMelo, and they're releasing this video with it. This has been a storyline since he told me that he wasn't wearing ankle braces in November. November 26th is when he got hurt against the Orlando Magic. That was the 15th game of the season. And I had talked to him the Wednesday prior to that, and that was against the Wizards. And we aired the interview right ahead of the Wizards game. It was for the Street Turkeys episode for Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble. LaMelo told everybody in that interview that, "Nah, I'm not wearing ankle braces. Tried to give it a go. Wasn't for me. Just didn't feel right." And since it's been a topic of conversation, Rod Boone, others have asked LaMelo if he would give him a go in 2024. And he said, "I don't know. We'll have to see." He wasn't committal to it. So he's wearing them now. I guess we'll see when we get to the regular season. Like if it's too much for him and if he feels like it's not helping him as much, he might drop him again. Who knows? But I'm hoping that he wears them, Doug, just for the case that even if he does get injured again, we can't point to something and say, well, he wasn't wearing ankle braces. Like, obviously, I hope he doesn't get injured again, ankle braces or not. That would be phenomenal for the best player on the Charlotte Hornets right now. But if he does get injured, if he does suffer another ankle injury and he's wearing the braces, at least now we don't have to point to, well, he wasn't wearing braces. He clearly doesn't care, and we don't have to run wild with narratives anymore. He's got them on now. We'll see if he wears them in the regular season.
Exactly. The braces aren't a guarantee of success. What they are is a show of good faith from a player that this Hornets team has invested a lot of money. The most money now on the roster is going towards retaining LaMelo Ball. And, you know, when you've gone through a few seasons now where he hasn't even played half a season, you want to see that he's doing everything possible. And hopefully they've gone into the laboratory and figured out a way to make these things comfortable. Because, yes, you do want a show of good faith, but you also, as a fan, you want to see LaMelo be LaMelo. And so hopefully they found a way to bridge those two things. Protect the ankles and allow LaMelo to play without thinking, because it would be as big of a disaster as having him miss half the season if he plays the entire season, but he's not playing up to the level of a max level player because he's constantly thinking about how uncomfortable it is to play with these braces. So, but they've got to figure out something, right? Because they have to have him available. And I think, I hope he looks at this situation and goes, hey, from ownership to general management on down, every level of the organization seems to now be committed to winning as many basketball games as possible. There are no more built-in excuses. It doesn't feel like this is an organization anymore that is not committed to doing everything possible to win. So hopefully that's leaking into all players doing everything they possibly can to stay on the floor. And I think this is one sign, but you're right. We got to keep an eye on this because we don't know if he's going to still wear the ankle braces once we get into full speed game action, into camp and into preseason. That's really when the rubber's going to meet the road.
I have to imagine it's going to be a question once we get to media day. So the next checkpoints on this are really any video the Hornets social media team puts out of them practicing. Every single time we're going to be looking at it. We'll get to Hornets media day. Somebody will ask a question. Do you plan on wearing them during the preseason, regular season? We'll see what he says there. And then he'll go out onto a regular season court, and we'll be watching the first 5, 10, 15, and beyond games that he plays in 2024. So that's what we're going to be watching for, Doug. Yeah, I guess if you were hopeful for this sort of thing, then so far so good. We'll see how it all unfolds.
Your tone, you've got a real tone right now. You don't sound, I'm taking from your tone that you don't think this is going to last.
Oh, see, please don't do that to me. That is not my tone at all. My tone is not trying to illustrate that I don't believe that he's going to wear it. I've been very tired of the ankle brace conversation because we just don't know what to do with it. I don't know if he's going to wear them or not. There is zero tone there because I have zero clue. My tone is all about how hilarious it's been that, yes, because of the injury, because of all the injuries that he suffered to his ankles, but the ankle brace conversation and where it's led to, where we are now with it. I find the whole thing kind of ridiculous as the guarantee, but it goes back to what I said. If he wears them and he still gets hurt, at least nobody can point to, well, it's because he wasn't wearing them. And I hope he doesn't get injured. And whether he's wearing them or not, I'm hoping for that first and foremost. But now if he does and he's wearing them, at least we can point to that and say he did everything he could based off what the Hornets fan base wanted.
Yeah, I think it's an extremely important conversation because he's your highest paid player. He hasn't been playing a lot of games. It's all been around ankles, and we haven't seen any we haven't really. I think this would be a totally different conversation, and I would agree with you that it's ridiculous. If we had any other conversation, words of encouragement from LaMelo saying, look, I can't wear the ankle braces. They bother me, and here's why, and here's what I'm doing instead. You know what I'm saying? We haven't had any of that.
No, there's uncertainty around it. Yeah.
No. We haven't had any of that from the team, from the training staff, from LaMelo. It's been really either radio silence or ambiguity in the interviews that he's done. And that just doesn't cut it. I'm sorry. That doesn't cut it when you're the highest paid player, when you're the most important player on the team for the team's success. That's not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it for fans who you and I have observed are done giving this guy any more runway. They want to see him play. They want to see him play now, and they want to see him play for the entire season or for most of it. People are fed up. And so I think it is important to do the Zapruder film and to ask the questions and to watch and see if he wears these ankle braces because people want to see this guy play.
We should reserve a portion of each
what do you think about that?
Opening. I think a lot of it. We should zoom in on his ankle with the opening segment, a portion of the opening segment, every single pod that we do, just to ankle brace check. Yes, perfect. Enhance, zoom in, all that stuff.
By the way, not
Make
the only
picture
thing
bigger.
that I found interesting about this practice video, if you want to keep talking about it, not to do with his ankles and not to do with LaMelo even. I saw a couple of other things in this video. Did you watch the video? You've seen the video, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes. No, there are other that you have other things to talk about because there are other things to talk about with this video. And it's coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. New training staff and also some new things to discuss via the practice facility that was also in the video shown by the Hornets social media team. We'll get to that in just a moment in the next segment of Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. More Locked On Hornets ahead. What are those other things that you wanted to discuss via the practice video the Hornets social media team put out here, Doug?
Well, I have a question. So obviously the practice court is slightly it appears different. It appears that it kind of looks like a little bit more like the game court. But the caption on this video is "New practice court is a paid actor." Is this meme? Is this a Gen Z thing? What do they mean by this tweet? I don't understand.
You know what? That's a great point. I actually did not get the joke all that well myself. I don't know if this means that I'm 80 years old, but I didn't get it all that much at first. Are they trying to make a point that this was an important part of the video? Were they worried that people would gloss over it and pay attention to the players, which is feasible, and they wanted to make sure that you understood the practice court is also a feature of this video? I don't know. I went way too in the depths, but I also had questions about the remark here with the video.
If you get it, if you understand it, put it in the comments on YouTube. I just have no idea what they're talking about. All right, on to the things that I noticed. I noticed the newest addition to the Charlotte Hornets, Moussa Diabate, and he looks like he's shooting three-point shots, and that excites me.
Oh, yeah. It's always going to go to the big guys shooting the threes for you. Did Nick Richards shoot a three in this video, or was there just a video of him shooting a layup? Because I saw that.
He hit a layup and then kind of knocked the camera away. I did find it funny, the other big guy, Mark Williams, I did find it funny that there was some of these action shots of like Brandon Miller throwing it down. You had Nick Smith Jr. running full court. You had LaMelo with the ankle braces. And it would just smash cut to Mark Williams taking a free throw. And that was like all we got.
Action. Hell yeah, baby. That's some action. You don't want it? Goodness gracious. Do you want to go? Where do you want to go next? You drive the show. Do you want to go to the new training staff if health is a part of the conversation today? Do you want to go with the new training staff in place for the Hornets?
Oh, well, just quickly, you also saw a couple of shots of KJ Simpson, the second-round draft pick, who we did not see in Summer League because of some health issues. He looked fine in this video, so that's exciting. We might see a lot of him in preseason. He probably spends most of the season in Greensboro, but it was good to see him getting shots up and looking normal. So
yeah. Also, just I wondered how much of a path to playing time for him if he already has a two-way contract, if Micic gets traded, and you're discussing him, Nick Smith Jr. being that combo guard. They also rely on Trey Mann still on the roster. I guess it comes down to how many players that the Hornets would trade in the backcourt. But yeah, we'll see with KJ Simpson. All right, Doug, now you want to go to the training staff. Let's talk about the new faces, because we know that it's not been very good for the Hornets health-wise for a very long time. No, not around LaMelo, but also around a lot of the players that the Hornets have had over the last couple of years. It's not just been LaMelo missing a ton of games. We know about Gordon Hayward. He's missed a ton of games every single season. He was a Charlotte Hornet. We can also go to Mark Williams, who was out with a back injury for a while. We got some report at one point. It like changed a little bit as the season went on. And then eventually we found out he just wouldn't return at all this season after he gave it a go like for a game. And that was it. What are your thoughts on the new training staff?
Well, it's a complete overhaul of the training staff, and not just new faces, which there are. I mean, they really cleaned house when it came to this training staff. It wasn't like they just got rid of Joe Sharp, the head athletic trainer. It's not just new faces, Walker. They have rethought the idea of a training staff, and really it seems like philosophically they're thinking of it as less of a training staff and more of like an athletic performance staff. So they've got a VP, and now they've got a VP of player health and performance, and that's Dr. Trent Sallow, and he's kind of over the whole department. And then there's Dr. Matt Tuttle, who's the director of sports medicine, and Bryce Daub, who's the director of athletic performance. Then after you get through those three levels, then you get to the head athletic trainer, Dr. Quentin Sawyer. And notice I keep saying doctor. There are a lot of doctors on this new staff, many more doctors than there were on the previous staff. Then you've got some associate head athletic trainers. You've got a director of performance psychology and wellness, Dr. Rachel Webb. Here's one I love, Walker. Dr. Harrison Herman is the head of rehabilitation. So you've got different levels. You've got specializations, task specializations. So you've got one person responsible for rehab. And so I think that's what excites me most about this is you've got a lot of new voices, creativity, new ideas in the room. I mean, Joe Sharp was with this organization all the way back to the Bobcats. It had been a lot of the same faces around the staff. So, again, whatever you think about the previous staffs, I think it's just nice to have all of these new ideas, new voices, and then have these people responsible for different things so that we can not only make sure that you're avoiding injury, but players are going to get injured. How quickly can we get them back to a place where they can continue to contribute to winning? That's why I like having all of these people thinking about these different things. Smart people.
I don't know if this is what it means, but what I would assume is that you probably have to dish out a lot of dough to have that many doctors in the organization.
They cost a lot of money. I don't know if you've been to the doctor lately, but they get paid a lot.
If you have so many different doctors with different points of specialization within the franchise, then I imagine they're giving out a lot of money for those people that have those titles. And if that's the case, then that might run contrary to what we had heard from the previous regime, more so about assistant coaches. So I don't want to just assume because they were not paying assistant coaches as much as what league average was, that it would be the same for the training staff. But just as the general point, we want ownership to spend money. That's true in any sport, as salary cap elsewhere. And if that's the case here for a team that has had terrible injury luck, it seems like a pretty smart way to spend your money and allocate your resources. So everything good news here when we talk about the complete revamp over there in the training staff.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I think you could dig deep into these guys' histories and you can see that they've got a lot of experience. It's a lot of varied experience. You've got some guys who are some people who are versed in the NBA training staff world, but you also have some folks from college, which again, is for a young team, you're going to be continuing to invest in the draft over the next few years. I think it is important to have people that are more closely connected with that world and transitioning those young players and helping them to become NBA players. But just something as simple as this idea of strength and conditioning coach. They don't have strength and conditioning coaches right now. They have like athletic performance coaches. And you say, well, those are just words. What's the difference? I was reading this write-up that Rod Boone did in the Observer with Trent Sallow. And Trent talked about how they want to get away from person who's just in the weight room helping them get bigger. That's important, but they want all of these staff members to be focused on not just that, but also they want these guys to be rebounding for them in practice and watching them play, analyzing film and saying, hey, if you do this in the weight room or if you do this in some other area, then it's going to help you play better. It's a holistic, top-down approach. It's a rethink. And that's I think, the most exciting piece of this is that it seems like Rick and Gabe not only want to put money towards this, 'cause it's one thing to throw money. You can throw money at things sometimes and not make it any better. But it seems like they're getting people that want to lead the NBA, change the way that we're doing things, instead of doing things the same way that we've been doing them since they were the Charlotte Bobcats. That's, I think, the most exciting aspect to all of this.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping the dreams do come true. Bullet point on YouTube is true. I'm hoping all of these things are going to lead to some real change within the franchise, and I guess we'll have to see once we get to the regular season. Still plenty more to talk about coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Give you some more observations and what are the dreams that are coming true. Maybe Doug can elaborate a little more on that as well. Stick around and find out next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never really want them to stop. My job kind of depends on it. But the playoffs, as they wind down, we get fewer games in the sports. They're just not sporting like I want them to. FanDuel, though. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I do want them to. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel has been hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long on FanDuel. Head over to FanDuel.com. Start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. One more segment to go. Locked On Hornets. Doug, are your dreams coming true because LaMelo is wearing ankle braces, or it's because we finally get to make just a little headway in our Who Wore It Best segment that's lasted maybe 3 years at this point?
Yes. The answer is yes. All of the above.
Okay.
I love that he's wearing ankle braces. I just want to see him wear them in an actual game. That's really all I want to see. So then my dreams will actually come true. But yes,
he's got to wear them best, and then we can put him in on this list. Who wore ankle braces best? Oh, buddy, it was LaMelo once he started wearing them.
Honestly, I won't be satisfied until he's wearing them 24 hours a day. I want him to wear them in the shower, when he gets up, when he goes to the gym, when he goes to see a movie. I want those. Listen, those are the most expensive ankles that the Charlotte Hornets are paying right now, and I want to see them protected at all times because you never know. I mean, I'm out here. I have these brick sidewalks where I live, and I'm all the time tripping and falling all over myself. So, an ankle turn is just an instant away. So, yeah, I want to protect them.
We've heard about the injuries with Ken Griffey Jr., like just the terrible injury history he had, slipping, I think, in the shower, in the locker room. Joel Zamaya got hurt playing Guitar Hero. If you're playing video games, I want you to wear ankle braces.
That's right.
I think it's a good point.
Okay, let's do Who Wore It Best. Yes, we have been doing this for like 3 years. And for those that have forgotten, we are taking every jersey number in Hornets history. We're putting it under the microscope from 98 to 00. We are asking the question, which player wore it best? The rules are pretty simple. We can only take into account their time in Charlotte, and we can only take into account the time that they wore, the years that they wore the jersey number. So for those that switch jersey numbers at some point, they kind of hurt themselves a little bit sometimes, but we'll just see how it rolls out. So we have gotten to number 14. Are you ready for the list of players that have worn 14 in Charlotte Hornets history?
So ready. Who you got?
We've got Ricky Green in 1989. We've got Corey Beck in 1996. Anthony Mason from 1997 to 2000. DJ Augustine donned the 14 from 2009 to 2012. Of course, MKG wore it from 2013 to 2020. He's the longest of the players to have worn the 14. Nick Richards from 21 to 22. And Kobe Simmons in 23, and then Ish Smith had the 14 in 24. And we all made an observation that he played for 14 teams. He wore the number 14. It was a whole thing.
Oh, it was all great. Yeah, it lined up perfectly. The stars aligned with Ish Smith. Pretty easy answer as far as I'm concerned.
MKG for sure. I mean, he wore it the longest.
What? MKG? Yeah, going to be Anthony Mason. I don't know. So I do not want my internet to completely wreck this episode, which it's been a little volatile. It's been kind of touch and go here. But I believe Anthony Mason is one of the only Hornets to ever accomplish an All-NBA appearance with this squad. I think that's correct. And so if you have an All-NBA appearance and that number when you played for the Charlotte Hornets, you led the team. It was him and Glenn Rice that led the league in minutes played the one successful season that they had. So, yeah, Anthony Mason has to be the answer here for who wore it best.
You are referring to the 96-97 season, the first season that Anthony Mason came over in the trade from the New York Knicks, and he was an NBA bad boy. A lot of infamous stories of him in New York, but when he came to Charlotte, he really got serious about his NBA career after that trade. And I didn't know this, but he won a Sixth Man of the Year award in 94-95 for the Knicks. Did you know that?
I did know that, yeah. Although I can just say that now, to be fair. I can't prove it, but I'll tell you that I did know that.
So in that 96-97 season, he averaged 16 points per game, 11.4 rebounds, and 5.7 assists to go with a steal and half a block per game. He was 9th in MVP voting that season. He was 2nd in defensive, I think all defense, second team. And he was on the All-NBA 3rd team. And it was the year that he and Glenn both made All-NBA teams that season. And he averaged 43 minutes, an insane 43 minutes per game. He shot 52.5% from the field. He did not shoot many three-point shots really at all. But he was a guy that was a little ahead of his time in terms of point forward. He was an amazing player to watch. A toughness that nobody on this Hornets team over the past, Marvin maybe gets somewhat close. We just haven't experienced a guy that kind of physicality and toughness on this team in a very long time.
Well, what's funny is I think another guy to consider actually wore this number as well. MKG was tough. He was just injured, but defensive-minded. He wasn't afraid to throw his nose along with Cody Zeller.
True, but it's that combination of physicality, toughness, and then beefiness. I wish they would have traded for, at some point, Isaiah Stewart, because Isaiah Stewart is sort of, in my mind, beef stew. He is the sort of second coming of not talent-wise, but just in that same mold of that bowling ball who's, very difficult to get your hands on and stop. Anthony Mason, absolutely who wore it best, number 14.
Yeah, Mason's the guy. Did you want to fit one more in before we move on?
Let's see. We got time for one more. So this is number 13. Let me see if I can get back to my list here. And number 13 is going to involve only 5 players. So there were 8 players that wore 14. 5 players that wore unlucky number 13, and it is Kendall Gill from 1991 to 1996. The late Bobby Phills wore the 13 from 1998 to 2000. Okay. Matt Carroll wore this the longest from 2005 all the way till 2013. I think there's a split there. I don't think he played for Charlotte in all of those years. And then Nazi Muhammad wore it from 2010 to 2011. And the great Luke Ridnour had a cup of coffee here for a second in 2014 with the number 13.
Oh, yeah. That's the second time in as many weeks we brought up Luke Ridnour. We were talking about the Jeremy Lamb trade, and I believe Jeremy Lamb comes over here because of Luke Ridnour. Really only having time for a cup of coffee with some of those teams that he kept getting dealt for at the trade deadline. So it goes to the top of the list, and both of those names that you brought up with Kendall Gill and Bobby Phills. That one's a tough one because it's the only jersey that's retired, the number 13. And yet I'm not sure that we can automatically give the Who Wore It Best award to the guy whose jersey is retired and hanging in the rafters at the Spectrum Center right now. If we were going to go to the top 35 Hornets list of all time, according to Walker Mail, I had Bobby Phills 17. I had Kendall Gill 12. So if you wanted to go by that list as gospel, feel free to adopt it. That's fine. But this one's a tough one. I might go Kendall Gill here, Doug, but I don't know if there's a wrong answer. Maybe you do have to go with the guy whose jersey is currently hanging at Spectrum Center.
Yeah, it's really a shame because if Bobby Phills had played 2 more seasons, the remainder of the time that Charlotte was about to leave for New Orleans, but had he played out the remainder of the time that Charlotte remained in Charlotte, then I think this has a chance to go to Bobby Phills, because he just physically was such a force, and he was just getting better and better each season. But Kendall Gill, in his second year with the Hornets, averaged 25 and 4 with almost 2 steals a game. And for his first 3 seasons with the team, he would get traded and then traded back to the Hornets, I think, for a final season in 95-96. But in those first 3 seasons, he averaged 1.3 steals, 1.9, and 1.4 steals. I mean, he was a defensive menace all to himself. And this team has historically not had great shooting guards, and Kendall Gill was one of the elite shooting guards that this team did have, and he was one of the higher draft picks that this team initiated in their early years. So yeah, I think you have to give it to Kendall Gill.
Important player, and it's one of those classic, it might be like the underrated 12 seed you pick to go on an Elite 8 run, where Kendall Gill, everyone says underrated, but it's everyone who says it, so therefore I don't know if it could be underrated anymore. Celebrated player, but not first thought of when you think of the guys who made an All-Star game, All-NBA, or just were a part of the leaders of those squads that he played on, with Alonzo Mourning, Muggsy Bogues, even prior to that, Del Curry becoming an ambassador. So Kendall Gill, strong career here in Charlotte. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, and that includes YouTube. I do not believe we're at 7,000 subscribers yet. We are oh so very close. Every time I say that, we see a nice little jump in getting closer to 7,000. So please continue to help us out. Subscribe, like, do all the YouTube stuff all your favorite YouTubers tell you to do. Doug Branson, everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.